Welcome to episode 12 of Bernie's Bums. Olivia, how's it going?
I'm tired. How about you?
I am all right. What's getting you so tired?
Traveling and babysitting.
Oh yeah, so you mentioned you were just in San Diego. So you went through Petco Park. What was the best part of it?
Um, Honestly, just being able to walk around the stadium and there's like at each different part, there's always like a fantastic view, whether it's of the bay or of downtown or of like a little neighborhood. There's just always a view everywhere you go.
Sure. Yeah, I actually went there last year too. So that's an impressive place. So that's one thing that sounds like you and I have in common with getting to the different ballparks and everything. I'm actually going to Texas, so going to see a Rangers game at the end of the month on the 30th. So that'll be a good time. I'll give my report of that when I get back from that. But anyway, let's just talk the first half and get a look into the second half a little bit. So at the break now, Brewers are in second place, down a half a game to the Cubs. But then the last place team, looking at the Cincinnati Reds, are only 4.5 games back from the top. So 4 games away from the Brewers, 4.5 away from the Cubs. That is just insanely close all around. Every team is, I don't know. What's your take on this? Is the Central just not that good, or is the Central just full of quality that they're just beating each other?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of in the beginning of the season where, every team was looking to compete. So there's also that aspect, but also Rock had mentioned on the broadcast, I believe it was Sunday, where it may feel like every team is underperforming. Like, especially when you look at like the Cubs and the Brewers, where if you look at last year, we were so much farther ahead and like not 2 games above 3 games above 500, one of the
Sure.
two.
Yeah.
But it's really like, I mean, honestly, it's crazy where you just match up against every team in your division and they're giving you a hard time.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's a fun part, but also like a really nerve-wracking part of it that realistically you could see any team coming out of this. I shouldn't even say realistically, because I personally just still don't see the Pirates or the Reds as teams that get in. And honestly, quite frankly, looking at the Cardinals, they don't really seem like they're I know they're around and all their teams are around. The Cardinals look like the best out of those three, aside from the Cubs and Brewers. But at the same time, I'd say the scariest is probably the Reds, just how they can put runs together. And I don't know. I mean, it'll be fun going through, especially with the trade deadline. And we'll get into the trade deadline stuff later. So actually, I'll leave that alone. But we're looking at the Brewers. They are in second place. We're talking about that. You said they haven't played their, have they not played their best baseball yet? Like, looking at it, who needs to step up to be able to get the Brewers to the next level, or what is the major problem that you sense with the Brewers right now?
Well, we'll talk more into details later, but one thing that I've noticed, especially throughout the last couple of weeks, is like we aren't playing complete games. Where you look at
Mm-hmm.
the three aspects of baseball, or actually there's four, where you have offense, defense, starting pitching, and relief pitching. I feel like for the last couple of weeks, we haven't had at least three or four of those things all on the same par and very good. We've had either the offense is good, or the starters are good, or the relievers are good, or the defense is good, and then everything else seems to be falling apart. So I
Right.
think that's been definitely frustrating to see because one night our pitchers will allow 2 runs completely, but we'll score nothing, and then the next night we score like 10, and our pitching gives up 12. So it's definitely frustrating to see us not being able to uh, have a complete game like that.
Right. It's your giant game of whack-a-mole where it's you knock down one problem and you feel like everything's fixed, and then all of a sudden something pops up and it just keeps going and going. Um, and you hope that it's something that something that the Brewers can work past or be able to get enough guys on board at the right time. You look at it, you were banking on Travis Shaw to be your starting third baseman this year. Travis Shaw is obviously not playing well, and he is no longer with the Brewers in the sense of the MLB team. You were banking on, still kind of blows my mind, but you were banking on Aguilar to be your starting first baseman, and he's hit better. I think I saw a stat that over his last 47 at-bats, which is 24 games, that he's hitting like 340 or something like that. But I think that gives credence to, I've always kind of thought Aguilar was and got me twisted last year where I'm like, this guy might be like just a diamond in the rough that you found. But the year before, he was just a good pinch hitter for you and a good guy to, spot start here and there. And that seems he's fitting that role at this point. And I hope that's something that he can continue to do going into the second half. But I think you need to go find yourself an everyday first baseman if there's one available and if there's for the right price, obviously. I agree with you that, you need to put full games together. You look at the Pirates game, they ended up winning, but the game where you get 2 home runs to put you up 5, and then you give them right back. Luckily, they ended up winning that one, but that's not that's something that's not uncommon for this team to be doing, which is nerve-wracking to say the least. But we'll see going forward. Now let's get into trade talks. One that popped up. It's Madison Bumgarner. Noah Syndergaard kind of popped up. They said they're not actively shopping him, but the Brewers are. I think it's John Morosi wrote about it. The Brewers are monitoring him along with his fellow starter, Zach Wheeler, who the Brewers actually would have had in a trade for Carlos Gomez originally had there not been an issue with his physical. And then another one, people talk Stroman. I don't know, and that's the thing with the Brewers. You don't know how heavy they are into whatever player. You don't know how heavy they are into any player because they keep their cards close to their chest for the most part. But out of those, let's say these 5 guys, 4 guys, Bumgarner, Syndergaard, Stroman, Wheeler, if you had to choose, what would you be looking for? Or who would you be looking for?
Are we talking choose from like the best price contract or just like who would you want?
You choose. I'm leaving that in your court.
If I was going from like who I want to see taking out any aspect of like contract price, you'll have to pay for them. I definitely, I don't know. I'd probably go Syndergaard maybe. I know he's injury prone a bit, but like, man, he's good.
Right.
But if you're talking from like more of an economical standpoint of how much is it going to cost you, all that stuff, I would probably go none of them just because I feel like they're all going to come in at a very high price because, first of all, everybody knows the Brewers are interested in a starting pitcher. And also, too, I believe that there's going to be a lot of other bidders, especially on Bumgarner and Syndergaard. So from an economical standpoint, I'd prefer none of them, but Syndergaard would definitely be nice to have.
Yeah, and I was looking this over on Saturday, I think it was, or Saturday or Sunday. Like just looking at trade targets that could possibly be out there, and there's not a lot. There's not a lot. You just look at control, the way that teams are valuing years of control, and you're like, okay, well, John Means has pitched well this year. Well, he's still under his rookie contract. Sandy Alcantara has pitched well. Well, he's still under his rookie contract. And that being said, with those guys not being necessarily proven commodities, is that a guy that you want to go bring in order to make your team better? Are they going to make you better as a team all around? And I don't know that those guys are the answer, but I'm not saying that they're not either. Out of those 4 that we mentioned before, looking at the way that contracts are and everything, Bumgarner is an absolute no, regardless of what his contract would be, how much they would eat or anything like that. Because you look at, he's a mid-4 ERA pitcher right now, and he's just not eating the innings that he once did. Like the Brewers need someone who's going to eat up innings, and I think the only guy on that list right there that's really going to be doing that for you if he stays healthy is Syndergaard. So I would say him because you still have him under control for one more year, just like you would with Stroman too. But there's just something with Stroman where I think he's a cool dude, but I don't know that he's a guy that you can ride as your guy, or a guy that you can ride as like an ace pitcher for your staff, or even a two for you. Syndergaard's the only one that really stands out to me, but you'd have to be, I'd imagine, like they'd be looking for you to give up Hira, and that's a no. So, yeah, I mean, like the Brewers are not in a good spot as far as pitching goes on any level, without giving up major trade chips for them, and they don't have a lot of those, from what it seems like. But anyway, hopping into yay or nay. So, since we're talking about it, yay or nay, the Brewers will trade for a top line starter.
I'm gonna go with nay. Bouncing off of what you said, where contracts, especially with Bumgarner, they don't seem fantastic. The price with the Mets, they're gonna be looking for somebody big, and I just have a problem with. There's something about it where giving away so much for somebody who's only going to affect the game every 5 days. And I know that with a very good pitcher, that doesn't matter. But for the price that we're going to have to look to pay, it's not worth it to me.
Sure. And I think it really depends on what you view as. I mean, actually, let's change it to. I mean, I'm going to say nay to the top line starter, like your big name starter. Let's view it as that. I'd say Stroman's. I don't think Stroman's a top line starter. Zach Wheeler's not a top line starter, but they're big. Like they're big names. They're hot names. The next question is: do the Brewers trade for a starting pitcher? Yeah or nay?
I forgot the name, but I was just reading an article before we started recording, and I believe he was an Athletic, and he kind of reminds me of a Chacin, where he's good, but like he's not outstanding good, where he's getting all the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a decent shot that we'd go after somebody like that who's not making all of the headlines, but yet is very effective. So I could definitely see something like that happening for sure.
Yeah, let me just look up who it could be. Remember the name for him? I mean, is it Chris Bassett?
I'm
they
not
wouldn't
sure.
get him. No.
Anyway,
but I'm gonna say I really don't know what to say. I'll say yay just for the spirit of it because they need someone. But I don't know. I mean, I guess here's another question that it's on our outline, but is there a possibility that the Brewers sell at the deadline? Yeah or nay? Or sorry, not is there a possibility? Will they sell at the deadline with there only being one?
I mean, I feel like at this point of the season, we're so close to the top, and we're definitely contending within our division. So we're looking to get better, and I just don't think that'll be an option for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say nay as well. I would think that they would, if they don't buy at the deadline, they're going to stay put, yeah. I would think, or maybe if you can flip Thames or Aguilar for some value or something like that, or a guy that you're not necessarily viewing as a piece for your future, that would be like the only way I could possibly see them quote unquote selling. But I don't know if that's really that's not a big splash move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
All right. The next one, yay or nay. Separation between the first and last team in the division will be less than 4 games by the end of the year.
Oof. I've definitely gone back and forth on this one.
Yeah.
Just due to the teams like the Reds and the Pirates who seem, I don't know, especially the Pirates, they seem to be pretty hot and cold. So it just depends on if they're on a hot streak or a cold streak. I definitely think it's a consideration, like an option that could definitely happen, but I